Jordan Peterson is actually losing his mind. I mean, he lost millions of Muslim followers after he called Israel to give the Palestinians, the Gazans people, hell. This is exactly what he said, literally, give them hell. Jordan Peterson is losing his mind, losing followers, and he is being, as usual, very, very hypocritical. When it comes to transgender students in the colleges in the Western countries, he says this is a ideological massacre. And at the same time, when 3,000 Palestinian children are dead, he calls it moral quandary. And he doesn't want to blame the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, the terrorist organization in the world. Now, let's take a look at this video and then I'll be making some comment.
Do you feel any moral quandaries about it?
Well, I don't think you can have a war without moral quandary. I mean, a war is the consequence of an unsolvable moral quandary. And so it's not surprising that the conversation surrounding the war is full of moral quandaries, because if it was straightforward and simple, and if there was an easy path forward, then there wouldn't be a war. And so, I mean, I can tell you what I think is going on to the degree that you can reduce it to something quickly explicable.
Yeah, quickly explicable, like the killing of 3,000 people, they were done fairly quickly within a matter of just few days. And so, again, very, very hypocritical. Let's take a look.
I think Iran is desperate because of the tenuous hold on power that the mullahs now have in Iran, given their own citizens' rebellion. I think they see the Abraham Accords, which were the most significant step forward towards peace in the Middle East for like 75 years. They see the Abraham Accords as an existential threat. This is a last-ditch attempt by the Iranian mullahs to use the Islam against Jews story to prop up their own dismal reign.
No, this is a false narrative. This is absolutely a false narrative proposed by none other than the loser, Jordan Peterson himself. Because the Palestinian resistance group, the PLO, Hamas, they were never part of a conversation. Israel never wanted to have them in the table to talk to them. They wanted the Saudis, they wanted the UAE, they wanted this country, that country. But these groups that are actually living inside Gaza, inside Palestine, they became completely irrelevant. So when he's lashing out at the Iranian mullahs and all that, it is just his narrative trying to distract us from what really happened. And what really happened is that they were being cut off. The Palestinian resistance group, they were being cut off from any kind of conversation. They talked to Saudi Arabia about Palestinian issue without Palestine. Can you believe this? Like, this is the level of hypocrisy. But Jordan Peterson, he is putting all the blame on the Iranian mullahs. They're the bad people. They got involved in this. They should not be involved in this. Like, who will involve in this? The people who should be involved in this are not involved. Jordan Peterson, he is just delusional. He's on drugs.
And so they rattled the chain of their Hamas puppets and said, provoke, and they did. And their hope is that the Israeli response will be so overwhelming that the Arab world turns against them, and maybe even the people who might be inclined to, be swayed by a victim narrative in the West, and that the Abraham Accords will fall apart, and that'll be the end of that. And
absolutely. I mean, what do you mean by Abrahamic Accord without the Palestinian people? How can you normalize ties with the neighboring Muslim countries, excluding the Muslim country that should matter the most, whose land you're occupying for the last 5 decades at least, and you have massacred them, you have killed them. Now you are asking those Muslim countries in the neighboring region to come and have a conversation with you, and of course you are very conveniently excluding Iran even. I mean, does Iran not matter? Of course they matter, because they are in the region. So if you want to bring peace and you talk about peace and all that, you need to include everybody and not exclude. You cannot just cherry pick. This country can join our conversation. These countries are relevant. That countries are not relevant. It is not up to you. It depends where you are and who matters the most. So Jordan Peterson is just babbling with his narrative. He's struggling to find any clout especially in the Muslim community. Now he is now well known that he is a Zionist himself.
That could happen, and I'm hoping it won't, because I think the Abraham Accords were, and it's irritating to me, for whatever utility that is that I think I know, insofar as you can know such things, that Saudi Arabia would have signed the Abraham Accords 2 years ago if Biden would have moved a little bit more forthrightly on it. And I think the reason that he didn't and the Democrats didn't was because they didn't want to give Trump any credit for anything that he had attained in his administration. And I think all of that is appalling. And, I see this story of...
No, all of that is not appalling. What is appalling is that the Israeli soldiers, they're killing Palestinian children. That is appalling. And the fact that they have struck a deal, UAE and Bahrain and some other Muslim countries, a peace deal or a normalization deal with Israel did not bring any good to the Palestinian people. So again, they're trying to sideline the main problem. They're not talking about the elephant in the room. Rather, they're talking about completely irrelevant things. You want to, normalize ties. You want to do this. But how you can do this without Palestinian? And this is where I think even Israeli, they are losing it. The PR campaign has been a disaster for them. They are now in Gaza without knowing what the future will hold, what the plan is. So these people, to me, looks like they became so arrogant. The idea forces and people like Jordan Peterson, they became so arrogant, they completely are now blindfolded with those kind of looking at things but not really looking at it. Like their heart is completely blind. And for them to really exist, as I said in my other videos, for Israel to exist on the face of the earth, they need to be waking up. They need to humble themselves. They need to talk to people who matter, not try to normalize relationship with this country and tomorrow with that country, hoping that there will be peace eventually and that they will win and that there will be no Palestinian state. You could not fight them and defeat them for the last 5 decades. How can you now, by normalizing ties with Muslim countries, defeat this resistance group in Palestine, especially by killing these innocent civilians, these children?
Muslim against Jew being put forward in this propagandistic manner. And I think, well, the Muslim world has to make a choice too, because it doesn't look to me like their proper champions is the government in Iran, and it's not like the Saudis don't have their flaws and perhaps the rest of the Arab governmental structures, but the Islam world should move in the direction of the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, completely nonsense. This guy has very short-sighted views about things. He's not practical. Jordan Peterson is not in touch with the reality. He doesn't know what is happening on the ground. He definitely doesn't know what is the suffering the Palestinians are going through on a daily basis, especially the oppression at the hand of the Israeli Zionist regime. He has absolutely zero clue. So this guy, out of touch, out of reality, and coming here talking about moral quandary, moral this, moral that, moral compass, makes really no difference. He's just losing his mind,